Yesterday, I made mention of our COVID ministry response plan. And there's a team of us who have been meeting weekly, actually more than that, several times each week to discern, pray through, and consider what is it that God is inviting us into when it pertains to outreach and caring for those within our community. And so when the crisis first hit a few weeks ago, we redeployed several of our staff to unify around the COVID ministry response team, and we started brainstorming and praying through it immediately. And we identified a few different things that we wanted to do right off the top. And there's a few guiding principles that we included in this strategy. And one of those is, as we discern out what we'll respond to, we wanted to identify what are true needs within our community, within our city, within our province. So often we have these ideas of what we think people need, but we actually wanted to do the hard work to figure out what are the actual needs. I don't just want to speculate. I actually want to know what the needs are. And so that's helped guide our response. Secondly, we wanted to really take a good look at what are we skilled at as a church. Let's not do things that we don't know how to do. And so we have so many skills as a staff team, as a congregation. And so leveraging those skills to respond to the needs is something that we've been looking into pretty closely. And thirdly, capacity. We want to be just really careful that we don't try and take on everything because there's a crisis, but rather be laser focused in on a few in order to do those things well. And so with those three guiding principles, knowing the need, assessing our skills, and also understanding our own capacity, we have then moved into the next stage of what does this mean to now respond to this crisis that's all around us. Just taking a quick analogy from when you're in an airplane and they say when the oxygen masks come down, always put yours on first before you help your child. And so in that same way, we were attempting to do that here. And so we began our COVID ministry response by calling the majority, if not all, of the people who call Grant Memorial home. And we tried our best to come up with the lists of all the different households that we have connecting here at Grant. And we may have missed some, but we tried our best to include everyone. And so there's about 1,500 households that we then deployed a calling team to reach out to ask really specific questions like, how are you actually doing in the midst of this crisis? What is it that God is doing in you? In what ways can we pray with you? And what needs do you have? And from that, we've been compiling lists of different needs and different prayer requests, and we've been praying through those things and now strategizing on how to meet those needs. At the exact same time that we started reaching out to our people here, we also took a good look at our staff and said, what skills and abilities do you have as staff? And traditionally, churches are good at producing content to encourage others to pursue Jesus. And so we didn't want to stop just because we couldn't do in-person gatherings. So we invited our staff to consider what would this look like in each of their departments. And so now we're producing content regularly each week in order to bless you, our congregation, and us, each other, as we're doing this. And so Monday to Friday, we have content that's being released on our website. You can go to grantmemorial.ca/online and you can see all the different content. At the same time, we're pushing that out on email because we want to encourage you, knowing full well this is a brand new season for all of us. None of us have navigated a pandemic like this before. And so we realize that this is uncharted territory, and we want to allow God to do a new work in us during this season. And we want to allow God to deploy us into places where we can bring hope and peace by His power and His Spirit. And so that's a little bit of what's happening within our group. At the same time, I've reached out to our strategic partners, ministries that we have long relationships with across our city. And so we are now collaborating with them to see what are those needs, hearing what's happening in their world. And like I mentioned last week, House of Hesed reached out immediately and said, man, we've got we needs for some food. We're struggling here because we're trying to keep our clients safe. And so we were able to begin providing food on a regular basis. And we'll be moving forward on providing meals for now at 3 times a week to House of Hesed and for all their staff and their clients. And so we'll see how long that goes. We're watching closely to see where our capacity is at, but it looks like we got good capacity. We got the skills needed, and it's a clear need. So we're going to lean in on that. I like to see us increase how much food we provide for House of Hesed, but I want to wait until we see kind of how this all shakes down as we move forward. As we kind of move out, I like to say it's kind of like cylindrical rings moving out from like here within our body and then moving out. And so we're engaging with our strategic partners, but one group or demographic that we didn't want to miss were the communities of people that are in close geographical proximity to where I'm standing right now. We've got these senior residences complexes here, these buildings surrounding us. And so we reached out to say, hey, is there ways that we can be blessing and encouraging you and your clients during this time? And so Linden Home Place, Linden Lake Terrace have both accepted the offer for us to begin providing food for them on a very limited level at this point. We're hoping to increase that capacity as we move forward. And thank you for those who already have reached out to say that they'd like to help volunteer and help provide that. Well, we are thankful for your offer, and we're looking for ways to engage you as the need comes up. At the same time, Sean Segart, our Director of Pastoral Care, has been reaching out to the other complexes and the buildings that are down Sterling Line and also right beside us, the Waverly. And so there are some specific needs that they've brought up that we're already discerning on what we can do there. One of the needs that they brought up was, boy, we need some pastoral care in these buildings. And so Sean has already started producing weekly content, which is then being sent over to the buildings for people to be encouraged. It's a weekly devotional specifically for our seniors community. And I think it's just a phenomenal way to be serving them during this time. As we move out from the center again, there's one more step, and that's the greater community of Winnipeg in the province of Manitoba. And we know there are needs there. Already some within our congregation have been communicating those needs to us. And there's also just strangers off the street who are looking towards the church for help during this season. People have lost their jobs who never thought they would lose a job, you know. Their secure sources of income are now gone, and they're looking around wondering, what do we do? How do we feed our family? How do we pay our mortgage, our hydro bill? And so in those moments, we have people like that reaching out to our church saying, hey, I don't know what to do. We got a request just a few days ago, a family of, I think there's 7 kids, and they're just wondering, how do we get food on the table? And so right now we're trying to create the systems that are reproducible and scalable for us to communicate those needs to you as a congregation, so that if you would want, you could also respond and help those people and make that connection point. A really cool gift in all of this is several months ago, you may remember, we launched something called Care Portal. It was a page on our website which helped connect our congregation with those families who were in the child welfare system who had needs. And so social workers would discern that need, they'd post it on the website, people from our church would then see the need and then respond. So we have that already done. And what we've decided to do is to leverage the Care Portal page on our website to be a unified place where anyone from our church community can come and see the needs that are there, whether they're with the child welfare needs or whether they're the COVID crisis needs. And so we're going to be putting both in there. We'll label them clearly so you know what's going on. There'll be a contact or a I can help button at the bottom that you can click, and then you can engage. So right now, that one request where there was that family needing groceries, that's on that page right now. And so if you would like to respond and help by maybe purchasing some gift cards or maybe even going out and buying some groceries for someone, and then we'll figure out the drop-off stuff to make sure everyone's safe and there's no infections that are spread and all that. Or maybe you can utilize click and collect and then do a whole order up and then the family can go and pick it up. There's all sorts of different ways we can handle that, and we're open to leveraging all these different tools. Now, it's just early in the game here on this because there's lots of work to still be done. There's all sorts of the tech that we need to figure out. And so we're going to start slow with the capacity we have, and we're planning to scale it up over the upcoming weeks. And so even today, feel free to go check out the Care Portal website on our webpage. And so I think it's grantmemorial.ca/care portal. And you can already see the needs that are coming there. At the same time, we're not missing out on the child welfare needs. The social workers that we connect with, their hearts are breaking because this COVID crisis is making their world even so much more difficult to engage with vulnerable families and children. And so they do need us to continue leaning in supporting those vulnerable families. And even, I believe it was Friday, we were responding to a need for a vulnerable family. And so church, thank you. I just get so encouraged and inspired when I see a group of people like this who don't just close their doors and say, forget it, I'm going to hunker down in my house. But rather, we see a church being mobilized, people reaching out constantly, how can I help? What can I do? And we know that probably one of the best things we can do right now is, physically distance ourselves. But that doesn't mean that we have to stop praying. It doesn't mean that we can't, set up a click and collect order for a family in need. It doesn't mean that we can do all these things. We can keep leaning in. And I see that happening here as a church. So thank you. Now, this is a moving target. These initiatives that I'm presenting to you right now are just the beginning. And that's something that we have considered throughout this whole thing, is we don't want to create a plan that just lasts 3 weeks and we're done. But rather we want to look long term because we know this COVID crisis could potentially last for several months, who knows? And we want to be ready to be able to engage all the way through it. And so I guess what I'm asking for is a little bit of patience as we get it figured out. Also, continue to lean in, continue to offer your services and continue to check the needs on the site and just keep corresponding with us as we do this. We'll be sure, once we have everything kind of like set up and all the tech figured out, we'll be sure to push it out heavily so that everybody is notified exactly how they can sign up. But if you would like to be on that response team, the people who would be first notified when needs get put up on the site, you can go to grantmemorial.ca/care portal and click the Join the Response Team. And there you can enter your information and you'll be notified when needs get put up on the site. And so starting from within our congregation, identifying the needs and responding, going out to the buildings surrounding us and to our strategic partners, and now putting the groundwork together so that we can begin responding to needs across our city and our province. This is our strategy in how we hope to respond as a church community, but more importantly, as the hands and the feet of Jesus, moving into our world.